to really kind of apply it to your samples, make sure you're trained on what you're actually going to be using the scope for. Any questions before we dive into it?
Is that iPad secure? I can see it falling off and smashing on
It
the
is.
floor.
Yep, so it's
Does
secure.
it have a screen protector or anything on it?
You could get one.
You can put one on there if you
Yeah,
want,
probably
and
put
it still
one on,
works
yeah.
through gloves and everything too. Yeah, I'll show you actually here really quick. If we wanted to take the stage off.
Yeah, the metal stage next to the beautiful iPad faces.
Yeah, so on the back here we have this iPad lock. It's a mounting bracket.
Yeah.
So we have a screw. There's an Allen wrench in that white box, but that's what is going to keep it basically attached to the scope.
Yeah, cool.
So won't fall off, isn't going to go anywhere.
So to take it off, we need to unscrew it.
Yep, unscrew it, and then you can put the iPad off to the side if you want.
Yeah.
So I even have, actually I think Adam Bailey does this, because he has a couple Revolves and a Rebel, and he uses them in his BSL2, BSL3, so you could even take the iPad and remove it from the microscope. It's very helpful that way.
We'll just get a screw.
Yep, so yeah, I was gonna say, I'll start inverted. If we want to go upright to inverted, right, remove the stage, 2 buttons, or 2 fingers on the back there. So just kind of right there, so where you push down.
Push it down, yep, got it.
And feel it kind of click back into position. Then let me remove this insert. And then yeah, if you want, I typically just kind of move the lenses out of the way. If you want, you can just leave it inverted most of the time, but you do have that upright functionality. On the back of the stage, so we have this little groove right there. That's what it's going to sit on. Symmetrical bar on the back. So we'll just put that right on top. Push that in. We're good to go. So, so for the Revolve, so obviously hybrid scope, we got upright and inverted capabilities. We have 3 lenses on there currently, a 4x, 10x, as well as 20x. All 3 of those lenses can do phase contrast, in addition to fluorescence and bright field. 3 channels in there, DAPI, FITSI, as well as TRITSI. Let's go ahead and turn the iPad on, or just open it up. For the scope itself, you can leave it plugged in. There's no warm up or cool down time required. Just to start it up, you just open up the iPad. Our software is going to be Echo here, matches our company logo. And this will be your live user interface. So at the very top, this is going to be your camera and objective settings. So if we click on BF, that will go to our bright field color camera. We do have an intelligent nose piece on here, so if we look at the top here, it will tell you which magnification. So those are all calibrated. FL, that will go to our monochrome camera for fluorescence. So that's where you'll have your different filter cubes. If we want to put a sample on here, there is a cutout on the stage for multi-wall plates. Otherwise, if you wanted to use glass slides, dishes, flasks, universal insert for that. There is a tension spring on the corner there, so if you're putting your plate or your insert on and the image isn't flat, just make sure to push it up against that tension spring. Alright, so let's go ahead and put this slide on here. So I have an H&E slide, just to kind of show a couple things in the software. We'll start with bright field. This is going to be your stage moving X and Y. If you want, you can move this by hand just to kind of get situated. Focus over here on the side, so you have coarse focus on the outside, fine focus on the inside. You can always zoom in up to 200%, right? So you just pinch, zoom in and out. And then all of your image settings are here on sliders. So brightness, contrast, saturation, white balance. Double tap will just take it back to standard. Intensity, this will be our light source LED. We also have this dial over here. So if you click this, it will turn the light on and off. If you tap here, turn the light on and off. So kind of software versus hardware. And then if you use this dial, increase and decrease the LED. Button on the right, capture. Similar over here, this button will capture for us as well. And then if we want to change magnifications, if it's ever too bright or too dark, I get a lot of questions on this, especially with phase. There is an auto exposure, so if you tap on the screen, it will help with the lighting. And then if we want to go into, let's say, fluorescence, So we'll just see autofluorescence on this one. For each channel, you'll have your own specific LED. Here's going to be your exposure time. 5 milliseconds on the right side, plus and minus. 50 milliseconds on the left side. So kind of like coarse and fine. Lookup table, you could always turn this off if you want to see the full range of the camera. Auto will just kind of help show where those levels are. Same thing with the LED. And then you got each channel over here. If you just want to take an individual single image, you can click on capture. If you want to do an overlay, look at multiple colors, here's where we can merge them together. So for example, green and red. If we want to do an automatic overlay, 2 fingers, press and hold on the capture button, and then it'll overlay both of those images for us. Again, autofluorescence, so we're just seeing a lot of orange. But you can always get rid of background, things like that. When you save the images, it will initially save it to the iPad. So here's going to be your capturing library. This is basically just kind of say, hey, where do you want to save it? What do you want to call the file? After they're saved, you can always edit the file names, move them around, create subfolders, things like that. Different ways to export the images. So on the right side, there is a USB port. So if you want to use a flash drive, just dump the data off. On the back of the scope, there's an Ethernet port. So you can use shared network, Google Drive, at an SMB location, work with IT on that.
You can airdrop them too, right?
Exactly, yep.
Cool.
So AirDrop, Dropbox, if you have an iPhone, MacBook, super easy to get the data off. It's all JPEG and TIFF, so no proprietary files. Those annotation tools are in there as well. So if you just want to put, quick scale bar, length measurement, it stays calibrated for you as well. But yeah, all those tools will be in there, depending on what you're trying to measure.
Yeah, you always need a scale bar.
Always need the scale bar. There is some manual counting options in here as well, so you can just kind of tap around on the screen, make these smaller or larger. And then if you have a region of interest, or if you just kind of want to put some notes on here, you can always create labels.
And those annotations stay with the image?
Correct, yep. And it'll even create a new annotated image. So
Okay.
once you hit exit, you have the option to save or discard. And then if you save it,
Makes a new image with that.
you got it. So you got the original and then the annotated image over here.
Beautiful.
All the metadata, if you go in the information, it is in there. So if you're doing same type of experiment, you can just kind of keep that same SOP, make sure there's no bias from one image to the next, and reuse those settings. Also applies for bright field. So even if I switched back to that color camera, and maybe we had a bunch of different settings on here, you can always just pull up that image from before and just say, hey, let's just reuse those settings from this image that I captured, and then it'll make those adjustments on the live image for you. Aside from that, there is that DHR, the digital haze reduction. So those will be the numbers here, 1, 2, and 3. You can do that on the live image, or after you capture the image, you can apply that afterwards. And then for phase contrast, so I mentioned all 3 of these lenses have that capability. I ended up printing this, or putting just like a sticker on the stage, just because I get a lot of questions about why can't I see my live cells. If you are doing cell culture, tissue culture, and you want to do phase, basically what this is saying is if you're using 4x, use the PHL ring on the condenser. If you're using 10 or 20x, use the PH1 ring.
Okay, and how do you change those then?
Yep, so if you kind of look right here, there's BF, so that's just telling you it's in bright field.
Yep.
There's 3 other positions, PHL,
Okay.
PH1,
Right.
and then PH2, which
Yeah.
is like 40 and 60x.
Yeah. Okay.
So since we are currently on the 10x, we'll want to match this up with PH1.
Yep.
And this is usually where people kind of have questions, is like, well, the screen's just black.
Yeah.
If it's too dark or too bright, tap on the screen, auto expose, get the live image.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right.
And then similar, if we go over to 4x, right, so now we'll want to match it with that PHL ring.
Yeah.
Now we get the phase.
Yeah. Okay.
Bright
And
field.
that would be with the inverted, or the top down.
Yeah, typically inverted. You could do phase even in the upright position. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter the orientation. It's just really the type of sample that folks are looking at. And usually those are in flasks or
Yeah.
plates. But I've seen people do phase like 100x with bacteria on glass, and if you have the right optics for it, it works in the upright position too. Yeah. Aside from that, if you're done using the microscope at the end of the day, just click the button on the iPad. We'll turn off the light. We'll put the microscope in standby mode, so you can just leave it plugged in. Nothing else required. Open it back up, get your live image.
Okay. Don't leave it on, guys. Turn it off.
Yep. And actually, to that point,
Does it auto turn on?
yeah, you can. So there's
Nice.
display and brightness. So I already changed this. It defaults to 2 minutes, which I think is a little too quick. You can do it at whatever setting, just don't use never. That way, in case you forget to turn the iPad off, it's not just using the light for no reason.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on anything we've gone over so far?
I don't think so. I don't know. You guys, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Do we have some samples we want to take a look at? I know you're kind of in a rush. Getting close to 11 o'clock here.
You want to see my microchip?
Yeah, we want to see your microtubules. You want to see your microtubules.
Yes.
And then are you able to flip that, or do you want me to put this upright?
It's pretty dry.
It's dry, yeah.
Okay. Here, I'll actually
Do you need me
switch.
to put it face down?
If we're leaving it inverted, you can do it face down. Otherwise, that's kind of the benefit of having the upright functionality, is we can just flip the scope around and then you don't have to flip the side.
Let's see.
Yeah, so you can start with straight to fluorescence, I'm guessing, so you can go to that monochrome camera. And then I kind of think of it almost in a clock where you like start at noon and then you kind of work your way around. So you go to your channels over here. We can start with single. And then if you click on any of those colors, you'll get a live image.
Double
It's a
tap
bit-
to
yeah,
focus.
No, well, you're not going to focus because you're not on the cover slide.
There we go.
Perfect. And then that focus knob over there, you got it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, you have your exposure where you can adjust
Bring
that
it
up and down. So that 260, yep. And there are a couple buttons down here too, so you can kind of see like the oversaturation indicator, and you can turn off the pseudo color as well.
Okay. There they are. So there's no saturation there. I think that's good. It's a little bit too high. Then
Yeah, and if they bleach pretty quick, you could always do lower LED intensity and longer exposure times as well.
there we go.
It's already looking a bit better, right?
Yes.
And
That looks like it might be oversaturated.
yeah,
We
I
should
would,
check
I
that.
would pull down the exposure a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's much nicer than the images.
And
I'm
in fact,
looking
no
at.
haze.
Yeah.
And we don't even have the haze reduction on.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, those look much
Mhm.
prettier.
Yeah, there's so much more detail. And this is what, the 10x or the 20x?
10x, yeah.
10x.
Yeah, so you can go in at 20 if you want. Can you just... Can
Yeah,
you do it
one-
automatically or no?
Yeah, you can switch it right over. One quick note on the 20x. Here, let me show you something really quick. So there is, I'll try to keep this in the same position. So there's a correction collar on this lens. So you can basically adjust it whether you're working with plastic or glass.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's,
Right on the object.
yeah, if you can kind of see it from the side, I have it lined up
Okay.
with the 1. If you rotate this, you can kind of line it up with the 0.17. And I'll kind of show this live on the image too, so you can kind of see how it
Okay.
makes a difference.
Just be careful not to touch the actual lens as you're doing that.
Yeah, so if we go, so I think I have that set at,
It looks like not as crisp, right?
Yep.
Oh, no, actually, we just went in on 20.
and if we move that over to about 0.17, put this back in focus,
Yeah, that looks better.
it just it will help with the detail.
So
So
much
just
better.
keep that in mind. If you're imaging plastic, you'll want it around 1. It'll be like 1 millimeter, the thickness of the plastic.
Yeah.
And then if it's cover slip, 0.17, just make sure that it's lined up with that. You'll get an image either way, it's just the clarity will
Let's
be.
look at the